lot of my or used by dates of past or something like that. I'd like to first recognize your preacher. I appreciate the support in being here today. And at the invitation time, if you'd like to come up and serve your flock as well, if there's a response, I would love to have you take care of that. I do appreciate the chance to be here this morning. This all came together very, very quickly. Talking with Jeff, all I could think of was, went too far. He said, won't you come this Sunday? I went, okay. So here we are. I hope that you are encouraged by the things here as well today. Can you see forever? I need to do this thing, don't I? And again, on behalf of Hope Harbor, I thank you for the chance to be here today. I appreciate the chance to talk about Hope Harbor. As I mentioned in class, I'm kind of a newbie to it. I got about 37 years of ministry, youth, family missions, and other things. And all I can say is it's a brand new world. It's a brand new situation. And as I said before, I'm kind of living my best life because my wife and I have always ministered to children. We both do Vacation Bible School. If you ever seen that guy in VBS that stands up front and he acts really goofy and dumb and sings with kids and does calisthenics with them and all that, that's been me. But those ships have sailed. I don't know that I can do much of that kind of stuff anymore, but we do love our kid times. My first ministry coming out of Sunset was in a little place called Idabel, Oklahoma. Anybody ever heard of Idabel? All right. It is a good place to be from, is what I hear from a lot of people. Blessed to be there, wonderful people. We just went through there not very long ago. I was actually had a chance to start as the preacher at the Valiant Church of Christ, just down the road from there. And I turned that down to do Hope Harbor. And so feel blessed and love those folks there. Wonderful, wonderful people there. In Idabel, they taught me a phrase. Now, they may be more oaky than the rest of y'all, maybe, but they taught me a phrase. I'd never heard it before. It's a measurement of distance. How many of you have ever heard of a Farsi before? You've heard of a Farsi? Have you? Who doesn't know what a Farsi is? Okay, you know, as you're driving out into the country, you're going down a long road. Young people, you need to know this. This will be on the final exam. So you're going way down the road. What you do is you go as far as you can see, and then go as far as you can see, and then go as far as you can see. Take a left at the barn, and the pond will be off to your right. That's a Farsi. Now the thing is, it becomes a complicated factor if you don't live in Oklahoma, because you got these beautiful hills, and you do have barns and some other things, and a pond or two out here. You go to Texas, those Farsis, oh my. It's just forever. We lived in Lubbock, Texas, going through Sunset, and you could see a thunderstorm coming 2 weeks away. It's like, it looks like it's going to rain. And if it's a big red wall coming towards you, you want no part of that. That's a dust storm. How far can you see? What if we could see every encounter as far as it would go? Working with foster children, they come in, and as I mentioned in class this morning, heartbreaker for me, I will never settle into this fact that the foster children show up at our place with a black plastic trash bag with a few belongings in it. That's all they have to the whole world. And I got to say, that's messed up. Kids deserve better than that. And we're going to work on that. I had talked to somebody this past week, and they said, I tell you what, I'll help you all buy some bags, some little duffel bags, and we'll send those kids out the next trip they make that's not in a black trash bag. And I'm like, amen, I like that vision. I talked to a man at the Memorial Drive congregation in Tulsa, and he says, I would like to talk to your parents there someday. I said, oh, okay, probably make that happen. He says, I am an orphan kid product from another nation. He was brought into this country by parents and whatnot to, take care of, and he ended up in an orphanage and all that, and incredibly successful. See, it's not about where you start, it's about where you ambition and where you want to be, and those around you that you build around you that help you become more than you were, to become all that you can be. A Farsi. What if we practice that with our children? You've got a little girl, I forget, where is she? Is she right here? Is that her? Fast. I mean, she's fast. I mean, she runs circles around me. Where's she going to go? What's she going to be? Is it worth our time to stop for a moment occasionally and just pray over where they're going and how we can help them to get there? What a beautiful thing. In Matthew 25, it's a story of people understanding the path and understanding that there's a lot at stake here. You come on to Sunday, and how often, or when was the last time you thought that something eternal with great consequence was going to happen today? I remember as a preacher in Sulphur, Louisiana, I would come through the back doors on Saturday night. I'd come into the auditorium, and I would I would start getting kind of misty-eyed, because I'm like, first of all, silly people are letting me preach. And I get to preach. This is going to be awesome for me and hopefully good for them. But then it's like, but what if God opens a door of eternity to somebody's life and we get to witness it? Wouldn't that be awesome? I was there. And church, couldn't we just use a little vision right now? We've seen a lot in the last few years of people, obviously, that have no vision. But we've seen wars, and we've seen nuclear threats, and we've seen storms, physical, emotional, spiritual. How many COVID survivors have we got here today? See, one of the things, I'm glad you're doing good. You look great. Were you taller? Okay. COVID's messed up. It's harsh. I spent 4 days in a downtown hospital in Fort Worth with mine. First 2 days was just begging God for another breath. Second 2 days, I was begging for him to let me back out because I got stuff to do. But all these things come our way. They cross our path, but they don't have to determine who we are or where we're going. In Matthew chapter 25, he begins with the parable of the 10 maidens or the 10 virgins. And then it moves next after that to the parable of the talents. And one of the takeaways from the parable of the talents is everybody here has talents. Everybody has something that God has given to them that can contribute to the well-being and the blessing of the Lord's church. And the church says, is this a weak amen, church? A little bit. Maybe I didn't pump the well, okay? So let's do it this way. At the count of 3, you're going to say amen, okay? I'm going to help you, preacher. I'm going to help you. This is going to help you over the long run. 1, 2, 3. Amen. There you go. See, that didn't hurt very much. You should look up what amen means, and you'll understand it is a blessing to be that connected to the messages and all that. Man, the stuff we've seen. Planes smashing into buildings, genocide. 2 things that we can't overlook or ignore. And one is that we're not promised tomorrow. I told this in Bible class, and by the way, when am I done? 5 more minutes? That's what they told me in Bible class. How much longer have I got, Jeff? You've got 15 more minutes or longer. Okay, all right. We'll vote at that point. But anyway, I had my birthday January 23rd of last year. 2 days later, I had a heart attack. Went into the hospital, they did scans and all the things, and I sat there for days and days, and finally, the night before my surgery, they were going to do a triple bypass. They said, we weren't exactly honest with you, but your widowmaker is 99% blocked. We must move quickly. That opened my eyes, and that's what opened my life up to Hope Harbor, was because I want to make my life count. You know, when you start facing that kind of stuff, you start thinking, I want to do something that matters. I could preach at places and all that, but boy, if I get to help some kids, I tell you, there's hardly anything better in the world than to get a hug from a kid. And the church says, amen. And be that kind of person. We had a guy in Sulphur, Louisiana, that he had to give kids candy in order for them to approach him. I don't want to be that kind of guy, because kids are like cats. They kind of know if you're one of their people or not, right? But the other thing is, not only are we not promised tomorrow, but we need to make every day, including in our church, count. Because all those bad things that happen in our times, in our generation, I'm 64 years old, our churches filled, didn't they? 9/11 hit, our church was filled for 2 weeks. And then they slowly started emptying back out. COVID, went to church, told not to go to church, still went to church, and then they emptied out. We forget so quickly about the activities and the actions of God. One of my favorite parts of the storyline of Jesus, and I love stories, by the way. If you haven't already told, you'll be able to see quickly. But I love the storylines of Jesus, of how Jesus worked a crowd. In the Sermon on the Mount, it says he saw the multitudes and then he sat down and began to teach them. What you need to understand is the word that is used there for saw is just not like, wow, that's a bunch of people. Now, preacher count this morning would say there's 120 people here. Jesus would say, there are precious souls here today that I've been holding their hand all week long. And they're broken. And I'm here to help them and encourage them. You see, in Matthew chapter 9, it states, when he saw the crowd, he was moved. Matthew chapter 15, when he saw the crowd, he had compassion. In Matthew chapter 14, he said he saw the crowd, had compassion, and he noticed they were hungry. I don't know what hungry people look like, because I don't ever see that version myself very often. I believe in preempting a meal with something before the meal so you don't eat on an empty stomach. I learned that from my dad. You see, when he saw a crowd, he saw homeless, damaged people. He saw children and families struggling to put bread on their table, like the woman at the well. I love her story when she went out to her people and said, listen, I met a guy, and he told me my story. What did she mean by that? He didn't judge her for her story. She could see his compassion in his eyes and his tone of his voice. And she was loved. We don't have to condone everything in this world, but dare we ever judge it, because we are sinners saved by the grace of mercy and the mercy of God. Amen. Fellow sinners saved by Jesus. And you need to know this morning, he saw them, he sees us. He knows what you're struggling with. He knows, what's going through your life, your aches, your pains. That's something that happened years ago. There's probably somebody here that the church hurt them dearly once upon a time just by a comment. Others have been frustrated with this and that. But what you need to know is Jesus sees this. He sees you. He knows your heart. The little things he notices, most of all, is he notices us. And the second thing that we must do is we're looking at our passage. We're in Matthew 25, and you're going to have to read it this afternoon. How well do you all respond to homework? We love homework, amen? No, we're not going to read that, Craig. We're going to give you a chance. It's Sunday. Matthew 25, 31 through 46 is a beautiful parable about the final judgment. And telling you the story real quickly, in that final judgment, there's the redemptive moment, and there are sheep and there are goats, and they come together, and they're going to find out where they're going to spend their eternity. I did a little research the last couple of days on sheep and goats. DNA-wise, they're very closely related. Any farmer people here? Sheep and goats are a lot alike. A lot of their DNA is a lot alike and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of interesting in this parable that they were a lot alike. Matter of fact, the judgment of them will be quite the same. Jesus says to the sheep, when I was hungry, what'd they do? They fed, didn't they? When I was thirsty, you gave something to drink. When I was in this is a biggie, I was naked. You clothed me. Because naked people make us nervous, let's be honest, right? But the compassion says, this has got to be embarrassing for them too. I can help. I was in jail, and you know, you know the difference between the people in jail and us? Chances are they got caught and we didn't. Speeding and all the other many things that we do. But I was in jail and you visited me. Let's be honest, all this stuff is awkward, right? I mean, water, that's food, that's fine. But I was in jail and you visited me. I was sick. I remember looking up from my hospital bed after my heart attack, and I worked for a group called Mighty Dog Roofing. It's what all ministers should do after they're done preaching. Not really. But I loved it, and I love people and all that kind of stuff. And lo and behold, I'm laying in my bed before surgery, and I look up, and there's the owner of my roofing company and his wife standing there. And I'm telling you what, that left great memories for me. You can love and support people like that. And the sheep said, when did we do that? I don't remember going to the hospital. I don't remember giving anybody something to eat. I don't remember clothing naked people. I don't remember any of that. When did I do that? And he said, when you did it for the least of these. Church, do you understand that we were called to the least of these? Now, when we go out looking for members of the Henrietta Church of Christ, we're looking for the best of these. Amen. I mean, they need to look like they fit in. They don't need to have arms full of tattoos and long hair and inserts in their ears and all kinds of stuff and mohawks and frohawks and all this stuff. We'll chuckle about all that, but are they welcomed amongst us? They need to be and loved. He said, when you did it for the least of these, you did it for me. Wow. You see, the sheep weren't keeping count. They weren't paying attention to that. They were doing what their heart led by Christ to do. You ever pull up to a stop sign, there's some yahoo there with a brown cardboard sign saying, we'll work for food, or please help, or something like that. Anybody seen that guy? What do? Sometimes we help, sometimes we'll give them something. Ideally, it'd be great to take them off and go, here's some food, I'll feed you and all that kind of stuff. But it's awkward. Let's just be honest. Wait a minute, that's been part of the least of these conversation, isn't it? We need to help. It used to be, I remember as a young man, my dad taught me this. If you see the hood up on a car along the side of the road, what are you supposed to do? And then somebody in media told us that's dangerous. And now we're scared. I love the story about the fellow that pulled over to help this lady change a tire. And as they're about to drop the car back down off the jacks and all that, she said, lower it gently because my husband's asleep on the back seat. Not nearly as fun to help in those kinds of situations. How will we know? Years ago, I was a preacher in Woodinville, Washington. Anybody know where that is? You usually know everything. You never went to Washington? You should go. It's beautiful. Woodinville, Washington. It's a preacher's luncheon. I told them the month before, I said, I'm doing the devotional, and I'm going to do it on the Good Samaritan. So what do you think with the Good Samaritan they should be prepared for? Considering being a Good Samaritan, right? Didn't plan it that it would rain, but I had a buddy of mine who had just come back to the church. His name was Andy, and I told Andy, I said, tell you what I want you to do. At the top of our hill where the driveway comes down to us, I want you to park your pickup truck. It looks kind of ratty looking. Park your pickup truck, lift the hood, and I want you to act like you're working on your car, which was not that unusual for Andy to be working on his pickup truck. It broke down a lot. Pouring down rain, underneath his hood, 15 preachers drove right past Andy on a way to have a devotional on the Good Samaritan. Tell me, church, how many of them stopped? Nobody. After we're into the lesson, looking at the text, Andy walks in just drenched with water, just drenched from the rain. He comes down and he sits right next to me. I said, anybody recognize this old boy? They're like, no. I said, you should have, because he's been parked for the last 45 minutes at the top of the hill waiting for you all to get here. And his truck was broke down. You had a chance to be a Good Samaritan. How many of you stopped? 2 or 3 said, oh, I thought about it, but, I had to get to the meeting. 4 or 5 of them said, you framed us. We're angry. I don't get Christmas cards from them to this day. And that's okay. I said, what you don't know about Andy is this. Andy has been away from the church. His dad's one of the elders. He has fallen away from the church because of his experience with church people. They don't accept him. He's a little bit different and all that kind of stuff. And so he framed them out of his life as well too. And he's just now coming back to church. And he had a chance to have his soul renewed by all the love of all these preachers. Instead, they dropped the ball. And they're mad at me. I said, you don't understand. Andy is here. We're here to serve the least of these. But then there's the goats as well. Jesus told the goats in that judgment thing, when I was hungry, you didn't feed me. When I was thirsty, you didn't give me something to drink. When I was naked, you didn't clothe me. When I was sick and in prison, all those things. You didn't show up. You didn't participate in their lives, which means the least of these were not cared for. And he told them exactly when. Now, part of this parable that we need to consider is, how often do we drive past, walk past, live beside the least of these? And our hearts aren't plucked to make a difference. See, that's part of my DNA, my efforts to be part of Hope Harbor, to be working with children. We'd love to see a contingency of you folks come down and tour the campus and meet kids and all that after about spring. We'll be prepared to entertain and all that kind of stuff. We'd love to see folks from Henrietta bring lunch and serve it to the kids. That'd be kind of a cool thing to do, wouldn't it? See their little faces and all that, the least of these. And finally, there was a storm. An older couple were in their beds, and the lightning is flashing, and the thunder is roaring, and the wind is blowing, and the trees outside their house are dancing in the wind and all that. And finally, one of the limbs breaks off, and it slams down right outside their bedroom window. And the older woman looks at her husband and says, "Where are we going to go?" And the husband responded, as husbands often do, "Depends how you lived, hon. Where are we going to go? Where are we going to go?" It would be a beautiful thing. It's not just to go to heaven. That's a good thing, amen? What if there's a few folks there because we saw the least of these? We invested in the least of these. We bought in to his plan. I'd like to do something quickly at my very end here. 1 minute over. Sorry, preacher. They'll appreciate your preaching from here on out, I promise you. But there are people here serving, loving God today because somebody saw something in the least of these and plugged into them to help them. Teach them the gospel, invite them to church, give them some help, take them to dinner, whatever it may be. And just quickly, you'll all be standing soon anyway. But if somebody plugged into you and you were the least of these, but they saw you, they noticed you, they helped you. If you were blessed by somebody of the sheep category, would you please stand? Somebody saw something about you and they plugged into you and blessed you. Your preacher this morning, I am the first one to stand because she did. I had hair down to my shoulders, a full beard, and cussed fluently in German, Spanish, and English. And she was a good Church of Christ girl. And somehow she saw past that and said, hey, he may obviously be one of the least of these, but he's loved by God. I want you to see these folks and know the difference. Are you blessed because somebody saw you? Well, hey, do our amen word. Amen. Now, here's the other challenge for the rest of you. If you're willing to be one of the least of these servants, willing to shoulder tap and love and hug and provide for and to help the least of these, that you'll look at those needs in the kingdom and you'll start saying, yes, 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 as best as I can. Can we count on you? Can he count on you? Will you be willing to be plugged in as sheep today? If you're willing to be plugged in as sheep today to say yes to the least of these, please stand. And you'll do it in your own unique way, whether it's prayer or food or housing or whatever it may be. You see, we offer the Lord's invitation this morning because we're all the least of these. We all need the grace and mercy and love of God. And the people out there, they don't have to be outsiders anymore. How many of you have friends that you would just love to see them in the row down from you because they love God just like you do, and they get to sing just like you do, and they get to be part of your church family just like you do? Well, then let's make those things possible. See, we're not talking about Hope Harbor, are we? We're talking about the greatest work on this earth, the saving of souls. So this morning, we offer the Lord's invitation. If you need prayers to concrete that decision, if you need encouragement, maybe you're struggling, maybe you've had a bad attitude, maybe you're one of those broken people that the church hurt you once upon a time and you're carrying that with you. It's got to end, amen? You need hope, you need happiness, you need peace. So we offer the Lord's invitation with just a simple question before the song. Where are you going? We're here to serve you as together we stand and as we sing.